God's country, the
Take me to
swamp.
God's swamp.
Take me to God's swamp. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I think it all goes back to Shrek. I mean, Shrek was just a lifetime
Take me.
defining movie.
That's exactly what it is. Sh Shrek. God's swamp is Shrek's home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a good one. Big things are happening here on the Daydream Show.
Big things. We're
Shrek
we're
and
connecting
swamps.
dots you wouldn't even know.
You
And
didn't even know they were dots that existed, but here they
what if
are.
we get the green of Shrek Swamp and tied to Matrix green? What then?
Yeah, so Shrek is trapped in the swamp matrix listening to Brat 360.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Just a
I
lot of
mean,
green.
who's to say? Shrek is very brat. I don't know.
Very Brat, and also I have like now devised like an entire alternate reality. You know how like people do kind of like cut up edits where they like
Yeah.
tell a new story, right? So it's like Shrek, but it's been edited. So like Shrek is Neo, Donkey's
Mm-hmm.
Morpheus. That seems dubious.
Well, I could see it.
The whole thing is clear in my mind, and now I can't wait for
Well, they
a
do
YouTuber
kung
to
fu
make
in
it.
it. They do slow-mo like kung fu, so I think the connections are there.
Which we were talking about that. I can't remember what brought it up, but I believe Claudia in Film Club was talking about like during that era. Yeah, I guess it was when the bullet scene, bullet time, which was made for The Matrix. Uh, that was 1999. And so like Claudia was talking about how that was like an era where the like slow-mo, like shoo, pan around to get like the epic shot, like uh, people were listing like a lot of different films, and I don't remember any of them right now except for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where like
Yeah.
she's like up in the air. Oh God, that was like the sickest thing when I was a kid. I was like, movies are
That was
magic.
great. That was
Yeah.
great.
Well, the cool thing about that shot, like bullet time, that filming technique was invented for The Matrix. But its origins like go back to the kind of idea of how like a zoetrope like is a series of photos that you
Mm-hmm.
spin and then it creates moving motion. And we've been talking about the zoetrope for a while now in terms of, we only see these kind of tableaus of the poet's life, like the color of pomegranates, we
Totally.
see like the idea came to me when we were seeing Taylor at NFL games, but also at the VMAs, and like she had different aesthetics. There
Mm-hmm.
was like demure lore and cunt lore. She was like serving different
Yeah,
vibes depending where she was. And it was like,
totally.
oh, like, if we spin these tableaus, these shots fast enough, we get the image of Taylor Swift. But if you slow it down and look
Hmm.
at it, it's like these are like not even the same realm. These people, what there's like a matrix, not matrix happening here, real world. And so I was thinking about this like idea of tableaus and the zoetrope and this like, she's moving so fast, it just looks like one fluid pop star. And then the wild thing about all of that is that the bullet time was inspired by the photography of like chronophotography and the zoetrope and all of that. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
so circular, literally and
That is
figuratively.
wild. Literally and
Oh,
figuratively, yeah.
yeah,
And yeah,
truly.
that's so interesting. It's like I never thought about how they did that in terms of an effect, but that makes sense that in a way they're like decontextualizing film or like breaking it apart to put it back together and make it something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
In which the sums become more than their parts, which to me
Yes.
is like such a trans like feeling, you're like more
Mm.
than like what makes you up. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah, they really did. They like, I was thinking about in some ways the technology for bullet time is breaking the parallax because you have like a
Hmm.
straight ahead shot, looking at Neo, and then it pans around his body, but he is, slow in time and the camera's moving quickly, and that's what makes it this kind of bullet time technique. But that's just breaking the parallax. By moving the camera angle, you're seeing, you know, a new reality, a new paradigm, which is the whole point of the Matrix, is that like Neo is a trans woman trapped in the Matrix and is like has to break it and the parallax of how he perceives his own life in order to realize that he is seeking unification with Trinity, that is not his lover but his like divine femininity.
Hmm. Which ties into, yeah, even the name Matrix having going back to the mother. And it's a
Oh, say
nefarious
more.
thing. It's a nefarious thing in the movie, obviously, but the idea, yeah, it's that hit me a while. There's some novel that I still haven't read by Lauren Groff called Matrix that's like lesbians in a convent in the medieval Europe or something,
Okay.
um, which apparently a lot of people loved. It's one of those top books, but think about that, and just like the word in Latin, that's what it means. It means like mother, Matrix.
Hmm.
So that's interesting, like tying back into femininity or rediscovering the mother aspect, you know?
Which, that gets to how the Matrix is portrayed, or I guess rather like the portal to the Matrix. Like in the real world, the people who are in the Matrix, their real world counterparts are in like a womb
Yeah. And
experience.
it's kind of like, yeah, and it's sort of like an awful, horrifying mother because it's just
Yes.
like, gross goob that's technically sustaining you, but you're just like in a blob as your whole life, which is crazy. What they were cooking when they made this movie. Ooh, they were
Mm-hmm.
cooking. They were
Mm-hmm.
cooking
And
because it's so,
that's on trans art.
I
Sorry,
know.
go ahead.
Well, it makes
So,
sense because it's just like the whole idea of the paradigm shifting and like how you have to completely break the paradigm and and then just like stepping out of technology or stepping out of the sort of like seductive ways that you can distract yourself from oppression. It's just crazy. They
right.
really they really clocked it,
Which
which they
like
say.
that, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I mean, that's what happens with like marginalized, forms of the population can totally see like the oppression and coming from miles away because they live it. And so it's like much more of a,
Mm,
they're more attuned to having to re-envision their whole worldview. So it makes sense
right.
that they would see the perniciousness of society more.
Right. They're like, there's like a forced clarity almost.
Yeah.
And it's, maybe neither good nor bad, just like a reality. Although I would
Yeah.
say it's often bad, it's often causes a lot of harm. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about the cycle of making art, and that like we make art from our lived experiences, and often that art is made of the experiences that are painful, like being a trans woman that can't even make the Lily and Lana Wachowski in making this film, made a lot of concessions. It
Hmm.
was a lot less trans, which is like I think how it has been co-opted by the right wing, is that it was
Mm.
too subtle for some folks to parse out. And also I recognize like that I do have privilege in understanding trans art. Like I wouldn't expect someone who hasn't experienced being trans able to look at this and like clock that. I don't know.
Mm.
And I think in some ways that's like okay. Like it's okay to have like sacred things that are within
Yeah.
our own community. Like nobody needs to know. Like they were running a segment on Fox News about the term egg. And I was like, Fox News does not need to know the term egg, actually. So maybe what are we doing? What are we
Don't
doing now?
tell them about eggs at all.
No
But
eggs. No egg prices, no trans eggs, no eggs at all.
that's
Oh,
so funny. Yeah. I mean, I don't, yeah. I mean, I think I didn't, I don't know when I cl heard that or clocked that, and I was just like, oh, that does work as a trans allegory. That didn't occur to me just based on my own lived experience, but I think that it's an incredibly powerful. I think there's something to be said for like the universality of art and bringing your own consciousness to it, and it's an incredibly powerful allegory of like liberation and free thinking and
Yes.
the sovereignty of like one's own consciousness. So you
Yes.
can, it's yeah. I think,
Which I would say is directly tied to, all liberation
yeah,
is connected.
totally,
Collective
totally,
liberation is connected to self-liberation. I
indeed.
believe that we like have to have a liberation within ourselves on some level. I think there are many, I feel like there's been many like iterations of like liberation in my own psyche, but there has to be some, willingness to engage in that way, I think, in order to like engage in a collective liberation. And I think that
Totally.
also collective liberation is the only way that we're going to have individual liberation.
Literally.
Yeah.
Don't eat that fake steak. It's like, stop it. Stop eating the fake steak. You're oppressing everyone. Yeah. No, but it's such like I mean it's such a good metaphor for like capitalism and such a good the American like imperialism and so it's so good for like just thinking outside of that box of like what
Mhm.
pleasures am I being fed in life that aren't actually contributing to my liberation or at the sacrifice of others or you know that whole idea of sovereignty, following the white rabbit.
Right. Well, and this made me think about how, you're talking about things to kind of like numb the experience of oppression and how that is like
Yeah.
not the pathway towards liberation, necessarily. I think there's like lots of tools, but that's not the main objective. And which is to say that I first kind of re-clicked into the modern Matrix era because I've been talking about Taylor Swift and the Matrix since 2023, I think is the first post I made about it. But when she was promoting Showgirl in the New Heights episode, she talks about like walking like into the living room and Travis is playing video games, and video games are key to the Matrix because Neo is a video game programmer.
Hmm.
That's his career, and they're also Matrix video games that are part of the canon of the franchise. They're not like separate or, an add-on. They are considered like integral. People have different opinions, but they're largely considered integral. Um, and I have not played the video games yet. I've watched a lot of the like, segments of it. But one of the
Mm.
most interesting things about the plot of the last video game is that um instead of kind of having that final boss that video games have where, you've defeated levels of enemies and now it's like the mega, they, from my understanding, like did away with that and it's like a unclear narrative about like where to go next and it involves like a a battle and I don't know if it's with yourself or someone who's supposed to represent yourself. Like again, haven't done the deepest dive, have not had a chance to play them. But there's a recording of the filmmakers who are siblings and they're talking about like they break the fourth wall basically when you get to the boss and they're just like, "Oh, you thought this was going to be like a video game? This is the Matrix, dude. Like wake up. There's like thinking you have to do." And they have talked about kind of it involves they wanted yeah to like break that paradigm of like what people expected and what is being called upon people in the real world for like what we need to
Mm.
do to achieve liberation. So I
Mm.
didn't read deeper than that because I was like, oh, I don't want to spoil it. Like I don't want to read what happens if I ever get a chance to play this game. But very intriguing stuff in terms of you're talking about like distracting yourself, video games, Taylor talking about video games in the context of her masters as like she's like, "Oh, I want to celebrate my masters," and Travis is playing video games, and like, it's not like a conflict, and I don't, think, but just those like as two ends of the spectrum and thinking about collective liberation.
Mm, yeah, interesting.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know,
cross media
Taylor.
storytelling. I know there's a lot of places to go with that. Cross media
Yeah.
storytelling and also I think it's like much more so for men. I mean not that there aren't non-male gamers, but just like that's such a social thing. That's like the only way that
Hmm.
like cis hetero men know how to like socialize is to play video games together, which is just
Yeah.
like wild.
Correct. Correct.
Wild. And I don't even like multiplayer games,
I
but
just feel like I had a flash of my entire life of every time I've ever played video games and a man was involved, more than one. And that was like, oh yeah, like that's just what those people did. Like there was no other socializing. It was like video
mhm,
game. Wow. Sometimes I feel bad, you know? It's like the world is so vibrant.
totally.
Go to an art museum,
Totes.
bro out.
Totes. Totes. Well, and I think that there can be art in video games and they can
Oh,
do
sure.
incredible like storytelling and, but it's definitely one of those things where it's just like, yeah, what's the line of like it feels that's part of why I don't play them. I play like little tiny, little puzzle games, but
Mm,
it's they're so sort of like addictive and enthralling that you can really like get sucked in.
yeah.
And they are so it's like easy dopamine. So it's like they're even more addictive because of that. It's just like, oh, why would I engage with the real world, which is really hard sometimes
Hmm.
and costs money and everything. And it's just like then I could just be getting the same sort of experience through this sort of virtual realm.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. So I tend
I
to
think,
think, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
oh
Tend to
no.
think what?
Well, I was just saying, I think that it's good for people to have community, but it's just like it just sort of shows like I think that's part of why there is this separation, you know, of people who play video games and people who don't almost. It's like if that's your whole social hub and that's what you're gearing up toward, and then like
Mm,
the level of like conversation is like on that sort of, you know, what's acceptable for a straight man to talk about. It's just like, oh no.
right. Right. Like are straight men playing the Matrix and having conversations about identity? Like
Yeah.
probably not if they're actually straight. But I hope there's some people out there who are egging it up, who played the
Oh
game and were
yeah.
like, I do believe in the transformative power of art, and I do believe video games are
Totally.
art. And I think, like all things, it's about how you use them, Like if I
Totally.
watched like Criterion Collection for 24 hours a day, that's still not healthy,
No,
Like
totally.
so.
Yeah, it's like, what's that line between using art as a panacea versus just a completely
Mhm.
like blotting out escape?
Yeah.
That's like a good line. And which we all try to walk.
Yeah.
Which we all try to walk. But like, I can see people getting a lot out of video games. Like the one that I ended up playing with my brother was like through the whole Mass Effect series, which was actually
Mm.
incredible.
Oh, see, there
Which
we
is sort of,
go.
it's like a whole space thing, and it's like it was a space thing, and then it's sort of, sometimes it's a hero's journey kind of thing. It's like
That's
I like it when there's
exactly.
like storytelling and characters and you're thinking about different kinds of issues and philosophical problems come up and stuff. So it's like I can see that that is like a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
totally. Yeah, I'm excited to play the Matrix games
Dun,
someday.
dun, dun.
Somebody, one of my favorite things I ever was, I don't know, not really. Someone was like, "Oh, you want to like, hang out with Taylor Swift at I want to ask her about like what this bridge means." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah. I just want to play Matrix video games with Taylor. Like that's what I'm signing." Not really, but we all have the things that we would do if we were just, hanging out at Questlove's Uno party. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, speaking
Mhm.
of the man,
The man.
the men who play
The
video
infamous lyric
games,
video.
the T. Oh man, Taylor Swift is your T. We can't get into HRT right now, but we literally are about to. Actually, I won't go into it. This is my hot take on written mine on my upper thigh, and she's wearing her little T. That's about testosterone. What if I've
Okay.
only thought about transitioning in my mind and I haven't given myself an injection of testosterone in my upper thigh in reality
I never even
because I'm
thought of
Taylor
that. Oh my
Swift?
God.
I know. It came to me,
Crazy.
to be totally clear, people were talking about the upper thigh on the timeline, and I was like, what if it's actually tea?
Oh my
So
God.
I just want to shout out, like, even if you're not talking about the thing, the conclusion that somebody else comes to, like, your conversations are generative, Like,
Totally.
so anyway, I really appreciate the community that we get to share in together. But yes, the lyric video of the man has some very specific color grading of blue and red, which are colors that are used in the Matrix to identify, well, red, like the blue pill, red pill. The red pill is like designed to look like estrogen at the time, which was in like a red pill. So in the lyric video for the man, she walks through a door and the color goes from blue to red, which we see also in the Matrix. There's like one scene in particular, like when Neo's first entering the Matrix, um, it goes from blue to red as he crosses the threshold of a door. So art is arting, Like you just think it's just the man lyric video, and it's like, no, no, this is actually a whole trans conversation that pays homage to a late 90s film, what before we could even have public trans art, we had The Matrix, which is to say, shout out. We're recording this on Mother's Day. Shout out to my mom, and shout out to everyone who's feeling any sort of feelings on Mother's Day, because I know it's a big day. But
Yes. It
shout
is a
out
big day.
to my mom and my dad, who took me, a tiny trans kid, to see The Matrix because I begged to see it. And yeah, it just like changed my life. So shout out to all the parents who are parenting out there, especially if you got trans kids or if you're a trans kid navigating that with your parents. I am sending you waves of things that are good for that.
Totally. May everyone be able to live their own truth and be exposed to all kinds of different realities and feel like you can always constantly have the permission to evolve and change yourself and find
Mm.
yourself and keep expressing yourself however you want.
There is still time.
There is still time.
There's still time. That was such a good blessing, Alyssa. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm, so
Well,
lovely.
yeah. And yeah, I think, it's to talk about talk about like I always bring everything back to the Hunger Games, but just like
Yes,
when
as
you
we
think
should.
about when you think about this dissension that we have about poor, people that are just trying to live their lives, and it's just like the reason that there is so much I can't talk antipathy is that it's breaking like fascism and it's breaking the like cultural homogeneity to step out of these like very narrowly prescribed gender roles. And so it's just like, that is in direct, opposition to extreme, coercive and soft power of society. So it's just like, know that that's the reason, that it's an incredibly powerful thing to like stand in your own power and your own identity under societal pressure to do opposite. So I applaud
Mhm.
everyone who is true to themselves.
And there are so
And
many ways to be true to yourself. You don't
totally,
have to be out. You don't have to stand on a street corner. You don't have to be in public. You don't have to talk to anyone. You just have to have a knowing and a loving of yourself. And
totally.
you can have that. I'm giving it to you right now. If you don't have it, here it is.
Yeah,
And you
it's an
can
inner
have it.
egg.
Yee! Yes. I don't know, it's hard, man. I think it's a constant thing too. It's like I feel like, I've had continual arrivals of self throughout my life. And I think that that's a gift of life. Imagine if you didn't have a continual arrival and you had to wait. Heck
Mm.
no. Just because
Mm.
it's changing doesn't mean that that wasn't real. That was so real then, and thank God it existed because I needed it. I needed that sense of self, even though it is different than my sense of self now.
Right, and life, it's just a continual death rebirth process, and if you're not
Mm,
doing that, then that's, you gotta surrender to the cyclical nature of life and identity, and allow things to die so that new things can come out, and just be like, it's not, you're not gonna wake up one day and have everything figured out and then it will be fine. It's
yeah.
just like owning the tenderness of that vulnerability of being alive is like such a great way to live rather than just trying to shut everything out.
Yeah. It's hard. It is hard.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was thinking about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey and talking about like you have to let go of the life you're living so as to have the life that's waiting for you, that kind of idea, which is
Hmm.
scary. And there's also this parable of the trapeze by I think the author's Dana Perry. And the parable of the trapeze talks about kind of like going from the trapeze of knowing to the trapeze of the unknown, like leaping across from one bar to the next,
Mm.
and how it's terrifying because you're hurtling through space and you've left the trapeze and you are not yet at the next trapeze. You're just trusting that like physics will still work and you will like reach out and grab it. But I mean, and just telling you right now, I have like chills thinking about that liminal space because it's so scary. But the author argues that that is one of the places where we are most alive and maybe one of the only true alive places because we are so needing to be attuned to everything in this moment, and we can't hurtle through space forever. We have to land, like it's traumatic to hurtle through space. And also, if we only were resting on a trapeze, like we're not doing that regeneration. We're not coming to the full crest of life. So those cycles matter. And even though hurtling through space is terrifying, those times in my life have been some of the most blissfully rewarding when I've like trusted myself to leap.
I love that so much. I love
That
that.
parable gets me. I love that
It
parable.
gets you. Yeah, I mean that's similar. I'm kind of in a weird liminal state in my life, so I'm definitely like hurtling through space.
Yes. Yes.
Not really in terms of gender identity or dysphoria, but just in terms of,
Yeah.
figuring out how to structure my life and figuring out how to somehow support myself in a way that feels, not completely soul killing and all of that. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to just evolve and trust myself and build a bright future.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that
And
other
know that you
other
can.
I know that
Like
I
you,
can, and know that
yeah.
like hope for different to have different lives is not illusory or dumb or stupid or something.
And I also have to
But
say that, like, sometimes I'm in the fig tree of Sylvia Plath's bell jar, and
oh,
like all the branches reach out, and
I
it's like I
know it
could have
well.
so many different fruits out there, what different paths of life. And I am offering the blessing of I feel like I have been in that fruit tree for longer than I wanted to. Like, I knew maybe about 4 months ago, time was like, I was like, oh, it's very clear, like things are changing, but I don't yet I received the message of things will change before I knew what they would change to. And often
Mm,
that is not the case. So, this is my blessing to anyone who is in a liminal space and you don't see what's next and you don't know. And maybe there's like no options, you don't even know what's next. Or maybe it's like there's seven options and you don't know what to pick. Like things will be revealed to you. I trust that you will listen to yourself and know. And sometimes when you have seven good options, it's because there's no bad option. There's no way to go wrong.
mm, yeah. And I think there's
But
something to be said for trying something, that whole definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and
yes.
over again and expecting a different result. So I think it's good to just try something that seems out of character or seems out of your comfort zone and not like crazily risky or something, but just something that, if you're trying to like trying to be super practical or trying to be like that, like Neo has that choice to pick up the phone or to follow the white rabbit, and he could have stayed safe and been fine, but he makes that choice to just, that answering that call to adventure and knowing that you can
Mm.
come out the other side is like, you know, an important thing to have courage for and bravery for sure.
Oh, that fact that Neo does trust the process. Like he receives a message to follow the white rabbit, and so he does, and it changes his life. There's lots
Hmm.
of pathways forward. Lots of pathways forward. I've been thinking a lot about agency in my life. And so
Hmm.
to close our little matrix chat here, I have a quote, but is there anything else you want to add before we transition into our
No.
matrix live chat on Zoom? If anyone wants to join, you can join us in the green room or you can get the link at wendingcircles.com. This will transition to a Zoom and you can join us there. But yeah, any other thoughts before we do that?
No, I don't have any other thoughts.
Well, thanks for chatting with me, Alyssa. We're gonna keep chatting about
Oh,
the Matrix probably forever. We've been chatting about
I
Matrix
know.
for
I could chat.
years.
I could chat about forever. This is me restraining myself
I
because
know.
there, and then you get to just the one movie, and then you can get into the other movies, and you can get into the whole like phone theme. Like we could talk forever
We
just
didn't
about
even talk about the
phones.
phone. Oh my gosh. Well, that's what
We
I'm
could
saying, that
talk
we're
about
gonna
the
talk about
phones
more of this
forever.
stuff in the arts forum that's happening at 11 a.m. Pacific on Sundays. We're gonna go, we have like, a whole PowerPoint and everything to look at the pictures and some videos and stuff. Because yeah, we just like can't get into all of it. There's just a
There's too
perpetual
much,
getting
too
in.
many movies. It's such a sort of a complicated mythology and an interesting way to look at the world and stories and heroes and if they're, saviors versus not and all of that. So,
Yeah. Well, I'll leave us with this quote from Morpheus because as I said, I've been thinking a lot about agency and I've been thinking a lot about how as we grow as an adult, it's like one of the most challenging thing I think as an adult is to, realize like no one's gonna make you do and like y- there's a lot of self-determination that is injected into adulthood that is not really modeled for our youth, I
hmm
think. I think we could do a lot better job of helping transition age youth into their young 20s,
hmm
take ownership of no one's going to tell you what to do when you graduate college. You're kind of on this pathway of education and then it's like, oh, I could just have any job in the world. Like what? That's like a little too much. Um, and I think for some people, there's different responses. You can shut down, you can go back to what But I've been thinking about this quote from Morpheus. And it reminds me of Glennon Doyle's Untamed quote where she talks about the yoga room and how she doesn't want to be there, but she like has to stay because of the like social, requirement that she's already there. But she comes to this realization like the doors aren't even locked. The doors aren't even locked. Like I could just leave. And so
Mm.
she does. And so this Morpheus quote kind of gets to that same idea. He says, I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
Mm.
So I'm just trying to walk through that door, the doors of perception,
Cleanse those
whatever door is in my
doors.
way. Yeah,
We're so separated from our inner divinity and our inner knowing and our inner consciousness, and it's just like that's the ultimate liberation is to be able to hold that serenity.
it's true. And I just want to say thanks to you, Alyssa. You bring so much knowledge and serenity to my life. Thank you for like inspiring me to live the art life, as David Lynch says.
I'm doing, and you too as well.
Thank you.
Totally.
So fun.
Yeah.
So fun to be in our digital salon. Well, I hope to see some of you there. And if not, we'll see you next time on the Daydream Show.
All right. Well, keep dreaming.
Keep dreaming, Alyssa!